Welcome back to another edition of the Cubs Now podcast. Lance Brozdowski alongside my partner in crime, Alex Cohen. Alex, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Now that I'm in the analyst chair today and you're in the hosting chair, we are flipping the roles. I am looking forward to this.
Yeah, role reversal's fun here. So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk some defense. Statcast put out some new metrics. The Phillies are gaining ground on the Cubs. We're going to talk about how much of a concern we really think that is. Ben Brown health update. We'll also, if you hang around to the end of the show, we got some thoughts on what our players' weekend bats would look like. I don't know what yours is, but I'm gonna think about it for the next 20 or so minutes.
Sounds
as we
good.
Talk through this.
I can't wait.
Let's
I don't even know what mine is.
We're going to think of it in the next 20 minutes here. Let's throw it to a good Sarah Langs tweet off the top here. This is kind of one of those. She does unbelievable work. I feel like she's very good at finding these kind of tiny nuggets that really stand out.
The best.
Only 3 players in MLB history have hit a first pitch leadoff homer and a walk-off homer in the same game. That happened with Crow-Armstrong earlier in the week in the Crosstown series. And then, unfortunately, this is one of those stats that has like a great part and a bad part. Yeah. Randy Arozarena went bridge off Jacob Webb Saturday night. And that was the same instance, right, of the leadoff homer, walk-off homer. I mean,
and then he also had a game-saving catch.
He did, yeah. It's unfortunate. Yeah. What are your main thoughts on this? The recap in the Mariners series so far. You're dropping the first 2 games, although that Saturday game feels like a coin flip.
It did, and when you go on the road, and especially on a team like Seattle, that even though they haven't been playing that well this season, have a lot of really good starting pitching, dating back to what they did in 2025. It's really hard to win games on the road. Cubs won 9 consecutive series on the road. That is not the norm. That's the exception. So you go to Seattle, Pacific Northwest, time change. You can't expect to win that series. To lose like that, especially on Saturday night, really tough. But you just lost 2 one-run games, both in walk-off fashion. It happens. It's baseball.
It does. Yeah, this is the last West Coast trip of the season for them. They got a 6-pack here between the Mariners, and they go to Arizona for a battle against another team that's right in that wild card
It's funny
race.
to call Arizona a West Coast trip because they're not really close to a coast.
That's a great point. Yeah, is that correct in calling it Southwest?
No, you're right. People call it the West Coast.
West Coast,
and it's in the Western time zone with the time switch, or Pacific time zone.
Yeah, good point. All right, I got to work on my geography here. Statcast put out some new fielding metrics. This one's cool because I do feel like we think of Crow-Armstrong being an unbelievable defender. I think his arm is pretty great. You know, he's had a lot of instances of holding runners. Ian Happ's had a ton of moments in his career. But Seiya Suzuki is the one in right field where all these guys end up on the top chunk of that leaderboard. Yeah. I think it validates a lot of what Cubs fans have seen, which is that as a team, they have to win the team Gold Glove this year. That feels like a sure bet. So fielder runs from an arm standpoint, what they're doing a lot of the time, Statcast, is putting a probability of a play happening. So we see this all the time with Pete's catch probabilities in the outfield, 5% catch. They're basically saying, hey, off the bat, we project the ball to land here. The center fielder has to close this distance. What is the chance, based on the history that we have all this data, that they do that? In this instance, it's a very similar thing. I believe they add in a layer of considering holding runners, but think about it also from a standpoint of here's where the runner is, distance to the bag, the outfielder throws the ball. What's the probability he gets out? And as you do that more often and you accumulate outs and assists in the outfield, that's how the number climbs up, kind of like an accounting system accumulation.
Okay, well, I feel like there's also an intangible there with Ian Happ. Do you think people run less against him just because of the history that he's had? 4-time Gold Glove left fielder, always among the league leaders, outfield assists. Do you think that is reputation-based? Hey, we're not going to run on him because, I mean, he's had a reputation for throwing him out. Not as much of the distance, where he's at, situation. Is reputation a part of that?
Yeah.
And is that a measurable intangible?
I think it is, because I do think you can look at similar situations on runners where it's like, okay, in this spot, do runners usually advance? And then you look at all the instances where this fielder prevented that guy from advancing and go, hey, there might be something there. I will say, though, I think reputation matters for the most part, but we also see a lot of instances where a young outfielder comes up. Think of like Carson Bange on the Mets, great example. Yeah. He's a rookie. He doesn't really have a reputation. He comes up, he throws like one runner out, and everyone's like, I'm not running on that dude.
I'm not doing
anymore.
that.
So I think we're very good at baseball at IDing the data points that force guys into spots.
It's like the first time you see Raul Mondesi throw a ball from right field.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm not going to test
I don't need reputation there. If this dude
do
throws a ball 95 from the outfield, I think I'm not going to run.
Or like Ronald Acuna in the corner when he like spins around and throws out a guy at third. It's like, I'm probably not going to test him.
There's a lot of dudes that I think, even if you're more of a casual fan and maybe you don't ID pitch shapes and stuff and nerd out there, you see a guy hose someone and you're like, I think it's a good outfielder.
Probably not going to do anything.
So. And Crow-Armstrong is another guy that I remember in the minor leagues, everyone always mentioned hey, sometimes it's hard to understand how good defenders are, what the difference between a average defender and a slightly above average one is. Pete Crow-Armstrong was always the guy that was teach tape for what an unbelievable outfielder looks like. And I mean, our producer's helping us out today. Lee gave me some stats here. So according to Fangraphs, PCA's one fielding run value, so 1 unit away from tying Byron Buxton for the most in a season. This dates back to 2018, when we started kind of tracking this statistic. A couple other marks here. He's 2 away from tying the highest from a Cub, which is Javi Baez, who had 26. So I imagine that's something he'll surpass this year. And then the highest number ever recorded was actually Patrick Bailey's a catcher last year. So we are running into a generational Pete Crow-Armstrong season from the booth as you've seen him.
Yeah.
How do you describe how good this season's been for him?
I remember him in 2023 in Iowa, and the term that I got was Tom Amansky center fielder.
Yeah, that's great.
Tom Amansky center fielder. So the way that playing center field is supposed to be taught, you don't have to teach him, just watch him. Just watch him shag fly balls, watch how his feet work in between pitches, his pre-pitch routine, the jumps that he gets, the effort that he plays with, and just the angles that he takes. I mean, this has been a reputation that he's had, really since he got drafted first round. Everybody knew that he was going to be a Gold Glove caliber defender. They didn't know the offense would take shape like this. But to add on to that, you don't know that the defense is going to take shape like this. There's a huge difference between a Gold Glove outfielder and a generational outfielder. A Gold Glove defender and a generational defender. He's the latter. And the fact that the Cubs have him as a center fielder for the better part of the next decade, it's a luxury you shouldn't take advantage of.
And we've shown boards on our broadcast as well, just like the sheer fielding runs he's accumulated in his career already relative to like Kevin Kiermaier, who is #1 in that stat per Fangraphs, I believe. And Pete's just done it in like a half to a third as many innings.
I think it's like 40%.
That is like the context that makes me go like, whoa.
Because
like,
Kevin Kiermaier of that generation is like, all right, that's the guy that we want to play out there in center field.
No doubt.
And we could sacrifice the offense because he brings so much defense. Well, now Pete's a 30-30, could be 40-40 player, and is better than Kevin Kiermaier defensively.
No doubt. He's your MVP right now?
Yes.
Of course he is. We're on Marquis Sports Network.
Yes.
Of course we're going to say he's the MVP. Everyone else should be saying he's the MVP
But
as well.
we've
This
also
isn't just
said,
us thing.
since the last time we talked, Shohei Ohtani hasn't thrown a competitive pitch
Correct.
on the mound for the Dodgers. So I think Pete Crow-Armstrong is the MVP if he keeps on doing this until Shohei Ohtani gets back on the mound or doesn't get back on the mound for that matter. If he doesn't, he's the MVP. If he does, we have another discussion.
Yeah, I don't even think if he gets back on the mound, he's going to be able to close the gap. So I'm firmly on Pete's side as we've been here for a bit.
And you have been since July, too.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm skeptical the Dodgers care about the regular season. You know, like maybe there's a chance he comes back and shubs for 6 innings for 2 to 3 starts. I just think he comes back, and we saw WBC from 5 years ago at this point when he was a reliever.
That's
like that,
crazy.
Yeah, Edwin Diaz on the IL, he doesn't look good. Like that.
Let's just have Shohei
like
coming in throwing 100-mile-per-hour pellets. So.
I mean, good pitcher.
Must be
maybe
nice.
Maybe a good player at baseball. That's impressive stuff there. I will say though, positive. Like the defense has been unbelievable for the Cubs. I do want to relate it back to the pitching. This was something Bruce Levine mentioned on the Sunday Lounge with Levine on our pregame show that I thought was interesting, and it's also something I mentioned a couple times ago.
Are we lounging with Levine right now?
We are lounging. This is the lounges when you start leaning back. This defense is kind of essential. This is like I'm going to give you this sentence. You kind of react to it.
Sure.
The defense being this good is essential because the Cubs pitching is a liability. React.
I don't think the Cubs pitching is a liability. I think that their margin for error is smaller because they don't miss as many bats. I think that their pitching is average, but the fact is if they don't miss bats and Dansby Swanson's out and not playing shortstop, I think their margin for error is a little bit smaller. I think there's greater room for them to lose games and make mistakes because they don't miss as many bats.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That's exactly what I've written down. 24th highest K rate as a team this season. They have the highest barrel rate allowed as well at 9.3%. So that means basically 1 in every 10 batted balls they allow has a slug that's probably over about 700.
Which makes sense why they're top
Which is,
3 in the league in home runs allowed.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, home runs is the way to look at that from a result standpoint. Barrels is going to take into account maybe some park factor stuff. So you could argue like, wind's been blowing out at Wrigley, but the barrel rate's kind of agnostic.
I mean, they've been giving up a lot of home runs all season long. So
yeah, and I think that is a problem going forward. I don't think it's a liability. I agree. I just think it's like it's average. It's an average stat from an ERA standpoint, bullpen and starters.
Well, it also makes
17th
things
and 15th.
significantly more difficult because if you do give up a lot of home runs and you do give up a lot of barrels and you don't miss a lot of bats, the ball's in play a lot more. And when you don't have your entire defense, a.k.a. Dansby Swanson at shortstop healthy, there's more errors. There's more mistakes that could be made. Also puts a lot more pressure on your offense. So, I mean, naturally, you look at the teams that's had success in the big leagues over the last 5 years, normally they get the most swing and miss. They have the most velocity, and they get the most swing and miss.
We're going to see how quickly Lance can run to Fangraphs and pull a stat quick. I don't even know if I have
In real time?
We're doing it in real time.
Look at you.
A couple pods ago, I mentioned I did the read off of the list.
You did. It was like an 8-team list, and I think 6 of the 8 teams. Yeah, go for it.
All right, so K-rate leaders in baseball this year. Number 1, the Brewers. Number 2, the Phillies. Number 3, the Guardians. Number 4, the Dodgers. Number 5, the Yankees. 6 is the Pirates. Then you got the Mets, Mariners, Red Sox. I mean,
well, so it's really the top. So the top 5, it was 4 of the best teams.
Yeah, 4 of the best teams in baseball. And if you look at it from like a straight K-walk standpoint, which is a bit different, the Cubs are 18th, so a little better because they don't walk a lot of guys, but that also lends itself like directly to the best teams in baseball. I'll read the top 8. The Phillies, this is strikeouts minus walks.
Okay.
Phillies, Brewers, Dodgers, Mariners, Guardians, Yankees, Red Sox, Rays. There's literally not like a bad team in there.
And the Guardians aren't a bad team, but the Guardians' pitching is so good. It just their hitting has been so poor throughout the majority of the season.
And I think this just makes it very evident that in order for this team to go deep in the postseason and win, they have to outslug and out-hit their opponent. I just don't envision a scenario where they go into a 5 or 7 game set and it's like you're expecting 4 great starts out of them. And I do think this creates a bit of risk. Second block of the show, in a bit we're going to talk about how much a threat the Phillies are. It just creates a bit of risk in matchup situations. Like, there are not a lot of teams in the NL, but if you put them up right now against the Cubs, purely from a starting pitching standpoint, like you hop to MLB Game Day and you look at the starters, almost all those situations, the other team in a playoff situation is going to have the better arm. Maybe not the D-backs.
It wouldn't be the D-backs. It wouldn't be the Padres.
But Phillies, Dodgers, Brewers, like all these other teams, it's like, I don't think the Cubs would have a starter edge if it went 4 or 5 deep. Really, that's the problem.
I mean, for the Brewers, you have Jacob Mizorowski, Kyle Harrison. Who's your third one? Dustin May. So once you get past the first 2, like maybe you have a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah,
especially if you steal a game against Miz, you really have a chance.
Sure.
My question for you is, as the Cubs pitching gets healthier, if you get Ben Brown back, you already got Daniel Palencia back, you get Edward Cabrera back, those 3 have the ability to miss bats. Does that make you feel any more confident about the Cubs pitching?
It does, but I would say it does past like the 5th inning because I don't really anticipate any of those guys having a dramatic impact early in games. So, yeah, I think that if the Cubs play closer postseason games where it's tied after 4 or 5, they're going to have a good shot to win. But those early stage games, it's going to be a lot of ball in play.
Yeah.
And like if they come out of those windows down 2-0, down 3-0. That's tough, because then you're not going to probably push to your more leveraged relievers. But listen, like Ben Brown, we got an update from Mega Montemurro, actually, that he felt good after a throw in a session down in Arizona alongside Justin Steele. Justin Steele, again, like, I love dreaming on the scenario of him coming back in the playoffs.
He had surgery last man. He hasn't pitched in the competitive
His energy,
games.
his dog plus to bring that concept up is like off the charts.
80.
He's the guy.
It's
He's 80.
Yeah.
He's the guy I would want in those scenarios. But I just think we need to be realistic about it's going to take him a long time to get to the point where they're even comfortable with those adrenaline dump games. Like, that's the problem. Is like you might get to a point where you're comfortable, and then you layer on the fact that he's right after the surgery, and you're putting him in like an incredibly high leverage, intense spot where like playoff situation, that atmosphere is unlike anything you're going to see in the minors or in rehab. That's where I think you run into some issue. But Ben Brown, we're saying it every pod, he's the X factor. He's the guy who could come back. I can envision him, if they stretch him out enough, opening in a 2-inning sample of some kind. I love him in like a bridge role similar to Palencia last year, where he's pitching in the 6th. He can cover 2 innings.
I mean, if you could somehow go like Boyd, Shota, Ben Brown in like a Game 3 playoff situation, like that makes me feel so much better.
Yeah, I'm digging the vibes around Ben Brown here. It's good to see him back and healthy and that he's figured out this
And just remember how good he was at the beginning of the season when he starts in the bullpen, gets moved to the starting rotation, is a borderline all-star, and then he gets hurt. Just to get him back in any capacity, possibly Justin Steele, possibly Edward Cabrera, and then also the name that we brought up on the last road to Wrigley and on the last Cubs now, Shelby Miller, 10 months after big-time arm elbow surgery, being able to come back. And again, if he comes back, it's not just like a small part of the Cubs bullpen, it's a big part. Like, that's a big add, or could potentially be a big add.
I do agree, because I feel like there are situations in games. I just wanted to pull up Shelby Miller here. So Shelby Miller on his rehab stints, 5 2/3, 10 strikeouts to 1 walk. He's given up a couple of runs and hits, but again, focusing on K-walk there. The velo looks good. He's plus 96 again. He used to be like more 94.5.
I saw 95 to 97, and the split's looking great.
So I mean, that's that's a name if you want to get excited about someone. Like, obviously, we're all excited about Ben Brown coming back, but Miller's the one that I anticipate them giving a look to potentially as rosters start to expand in September and such. You just kind of have to see him in the regular season.
Yes. He needs to get 2 to 3 weeks, 5, 6 outings, and you put that together, and he's healthy, and the results are good, and the pitch shape is good, and the velocity holds up. You have a good decision that you have to make.
Yeah.
Either way, it'll work out, but like that's a positive decision that you'll have that you didn't expect at the beginning of the season when you signed him.
No doubt. A very exciting arm. Couple guys down in the rehab stints and alongside Shelby Miller that we're excited to see. Coming up after the break, we're going to decide whether the Phillies are a threat to take down the first wild card from the Cubs. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Cubs Now podcast. Lance Brozdowski alongside Alex Cohen. First block of the show, we were talking a little about the reputation outfielders have and whether they limit runners. Our producer actually threw us a little nugget here. There is a leaderboard on Savant that shows Pete Crow-Armstrong, the runners, when he has an attempted throw, run about 4% less than they do against other outfielders. That is 6th highest in baseball. So there's not too dramatic of a swing, but Pete Crow-Armstrong's up here, Aaron Judge is up here, Jackson Merrill's up here, Henry Bolte, I don't know if I'm saying that name right, from the Athletics is also
I think
here.
it's Bolte,
Julio Rodriguez, Bolte. So yeah, some validation of names on the point we were talking about how reputation can influence guys. It's cool we can measure that stuff as well.
They really can measure everything.
They can measure everything.
Yeah.
We are data nerds in baseball here.
Brings
the
a
NL
smile
race,
to your face.
Yeah, absolutely. The Phillies, man, this is kind of what we're trying to figure out how much of a threat this team is for the Cubs in particular. So the Cubs have the tiebreak over the Phillies. Entering Sunday, the Phillies won 8 in a row. Kind of heating up here. Andrew Painter came back up from AAA. Has looked really fantastic.
I have an update for you. They won on Sunday on a walk-off home run by Kyle Schwarber.
I didn't need to hear that.
Yeah.
You could have waited till after the show. So 9 in a row for them.
My most sincere non-apology.
I mean, it's one of those streaks. Like the Brewers had a streak last year. The Cubs have had streaks. You know, there's pockets of the season.
Well, everybody talks about how streaky the Cubs are with winning 10 games in a row, losing 10 games in a row, winning 10 games in a row, going 7-22 in May, and then being one of the best teams in baseball since. The Phillies are like that too.
Yeah.
They had such an awful start to the season. Then they started playing well once they fired their manager and brought in Don Mattingly. Then they struggled around the All-Star break, and they're peaking right now. They're such a streaky team offensively. I mean, you think of their roster with Kyle Schwarber on pace for another 45 to 50 home runs, Bryce Harper on pace for his most home runs, over the last decade, or right after his MVP seasons. They're so streaky as well. So right now they're playing, their best baseball, which is crazy to say at the right time.
Yeah, as Fangraphs has it right now, the Phillies are projected to win 90 games, and the Cubs are projected to win 91. Okay. So they're looking at underlying data, they're looking at run differential and projecting teams going forward. So, yeah, it's a slight edge. And even if that ends up at 90-90 or it's close, again, the Cubs have the tiebreaker, so there's a subtle edge there. So whenever you're looking at the wild card standings and seeing, maybe the Phillies 2 back of the Cubs, they kind of need to flip that. They need to get to 3. Yeah. So add a number to whenever you're looking at those wild card standings. And those wild card standings we're going to show on our pregame shows a ton because the division odds for the Cubs have fallen to 6%. And the buy probability for them has fallen to 5%. This is a byproduct of the Brewers continuing to be on fire perpetually. They don't seem to ever slow down.
Cubs playing 500 baseball.
Yeah, Cubs playing more 500 baseball over the last month-ish or so, I imagine, or maybe last kind of 3-ish or so weeks. So, again, it's not likely the Phillies leap the Cubs, but it is a threat. And if the Phillies continue to have this kind of streak, I don't feel great about the Cubs going into Philadelphia, particularly because of what we were talking about in the first block of this. The Phillies staff is incredible.
It's a tough
they can go. Yeah. I mean, Christopher Sanchez feels like the game 1 starter. He'll probably finish second in NL side.
No, it would be Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler, and then possibly Jesus Luzardo, or a resurgent Aaron Nola has got a 2.85 ERA since the All-Star. I mean, it would be Luzardo, especially because he's a left-handed pitcher. Based on the Cubs splits, they are better against right-handed pitchers than they are against left-handed pitchers from a power perspective. So I would imagine Luzardo is part of that 3-start segment, but Aaron Nola's been really good too. Their starting pitching is pretty impressive.
Zach Wheeler's struggled a little of late too, and
you're giving Wheeler the ball.
I was about to say, you're going to give him the ball, and even if you don't, even if say he runs into something, the Phillies' 4th and 5th starters are better than the Cubs' number 3 and 4 starters, you can argue. And listen, I'm in on Andrew Painter for some of the underlying data. If he goes to the pen, that's a weapon. So I just think it is, again, a couple weeks ago I was like, you got to hunt the 1 seed, get the bye, guarantee yourself a 5-7 game series. Now we're to the point where it's like, they have to have home field for this. playoff series. They cannot go into Philadelphia.
The Phillies would be a really tough series.
draw.
I mean, just regardless of if it's in Philadelphia or it's in Chicago, that being said, like, you have to get the 4.
You do.
Like, you have to get those 3 games at home. I feel a little bit more confident if the Cubs were to play the Padres or play the Diamondbacks.
doubt.
I don't think the Phillies are going to catch the Cubs, because if you look at, the Phillies stretch of games, I mean, right now they're in a really good stretch. They have to play Atlanta 7 more times, just like the Cubs have to play the Brewers 7 more times. So that kind of cancels out. Phillies have a couple other series as well. Cubs have 3 games against Arizona. They have 3 games also to end the season against, Boston, and then they have a home series against Atlanta. So it's not like the Cubs have an easy schedule either.
And the Phillies are about to do what the Cubs just did from a West Coast standpoint. They're going to get upcoming here. They'll get 3 in Seattle, then they go to the Angels, then they go to the D-backs. So more of an
That's a
extended,
9-game West Coast trip.
West Coast trip. So, of course, the win streak's probably going to be snapped in that window, but it's a very similar pocket to what the Cubs are dealing with right now, where they get 6 to 9-ish games around some of these.
I think the Phillies hold. I think the Cubs hold them off. I mean, I would imagine that's the 4-5 series. Which again, I think the Phillies, whether they're at home, whether on the road, they pose the biggest test to the Cubs just because of their starting pitching and just the sheer firepower with Bryce Harper, with Kyle Schwarber, with Trey Turner. Even Trey Turner having a down season. Brandon Marsh being an all-star. That lineup's good. Their bullpen hasn't been particularly healthy. I think in terms of like the wild card series, the Phillies are the team that you don't want to face.
I agree. And they have, apart from that West Coast trip, the Phillies do have, put it this way, there's basically 2 teams that play 7 games against a rival that will decide a lot of what we're talking
Cubs,
about.
Brewers, and then
Cubs,
Phillies,
and the
Braves.
Phillies have 7 against the Braves. That starts Labor Day weekend. They have a 4-pack there from the 4th to the 7th. And then, again, that subsequent weekend, they'll go into Atlanta.
And even if they win that series, that could
huge.
beat you up a little bit. I mean, that takes a lot out of you when you have big divisional series with divisional supremacy on the line in September. I mean, that's what you want, but it takes a lot out of you.
The Brewers then go into Philadelphia, actually, in the second to last series of the. So there may be
that's a
some
big
subtle
one.
Cubs fans rooting for the Brewers to beat the Phillies in those spots if the Phillies, by that point in time, have accumulated enough over the Cubs. But
do you think that
this
the
race
Cubs
is interesting?
Do you think that they hold off against the Phillies?
I do.
They get the 4?
Yeah, I'm gonna defer to the numbers here. Like I feel like the Cubs are in a very good spot.
You defer to the
I know,
numbers?
surprising.
No.
But I do think, as we're looking at the schedule here, I feel like as you get into this last pocket of games, it does become a little matchup dependent. Like strength of schedule matters a little more to me when you only have, 12 or so series left. I don't think it matters too much at the beginning of the year, just because of the variability in team quality. Think about going back to the pockets early in the year when the Cubs were like, we were on this podcast like, man, this stretch against the Phillies and the Mets and the Dodgers is tough. And then
they absolutely dominated.
Obliterate the Mets and the Phillies. So
dominated, yeah.
I just think when you get into small sample, end of season, September, not a lot of series left, schedule matters a lot, and I think this is a tough West Coast.
I'm almost more inclined to root for the Phillies against the Braves and the Phillies against the Brewers, so the Phillies win the division, because I think the Cubs against the Braves in a 3-game series, possibly here. I think if you can get through Chris Sale and get a W, you're winning that series.
I agree. Sale's the tough matchup. That dude is unbelievable. But I agree, apart from that, in a 3-game series, the Phillies, I think, match up better. They can match up with the Phillies just because of their, the Dodgers.
No, the Cubs match up better against the Braves than they do against the Phillies, even though the Cubs have absolutely dominated the Phillies in the regular season.
Agreed. We'll finish things off today with some fun stuff. Players Weekend was this weekend. A lot of the fun bats we've seen floating around. We pulled some of them. We want to take a look at the Little League game out of Williamsport is Sunday between the Braves and the Brewers as well. Let's just do some live reacts. This is a Spider-Man bat. This is Julio Rodriguez, applicable to the series out in Seattle. Were you a big Marvel guy?
I was
in your
not.
childhood?
No, I mean, I think it's a really cool bat, but no, that is, I'm not a Marvel guy. I'm not a superhero guy, but if I were, I would like that.
Yeah, that's fresh. My favorite one is Chandler Simpson's, actually. This is just a fun, crossover. Obviously, anybody who grew up watching The Simpsons or anything, it's very, very applicable. But
I like that.
This is a great, symbiotic relationship between a very legendary TV show and a player whose last name is Simpson. He got the bit here, and I think he executed it well.
He understood the assignment. I like that a lot. That's really good. That's 10 out of 10 for me.
It's a good one. And then I think there's another one as well, Jake Magnum here. This one is the Pokemon edition. Pokemon is really caught on with players.
Were you into Pokemon?
I was a big Pokemon guy when I was younger.
That doesn't shock me.
Why does that not shock you?
You just look like somebody who
Is it
would
a
like
nerd?
Pokemon. You look like somebody who
I
like
don't think that's a
Pokemon.
compliment.
It is.
I don't think
I
that's
had
a
friends who
compliment.
like Pokemon. I just wasn't one of them.
Yeah,
I
was
was a
into Pokemon when I
sports
was a
cards
kid.
and collectibles.
I was
fan.
also that. I was
Come
into
on.
cards and everything.
You probably
generally
had like
as a
the
whole.
card deck in the box. Well,
Of
you
course,
had
that's also
Pokemon.
back in my parents'
You had the
house.
Pokemon box.
Yeah.
You had the sports cards box.
Oh yeah,
That's
totally,
funny.
totally. What would your bat be? What would you wrap?
I
in?
think I would have a background looking like either the Sandlot or backyard baseball.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just have an Excel spreadsheet wrapped around the bat. It's like the easiest thing.
Just numbers.
Just
Yeah.
numbers, Excel rows and columns and everything.
I think that'd be really
Would
good
you
for
have
you.
anything on the back of your jersey? What would you go with?
So if we were going to go with nicknames,
Yeah.
and I'll admit this to the world. When I was 16, it was during like the Doggy Fizzle, Televizzle, Snoop Dogg stuff. Do you remember that? Like the show?
I vaguely do,
Vaguely
yeah,
remember?
yeah.
So Cohen, Sizzle. It'd be Cizzle.
That's
Sizzle.
good. I like that.
Yeah.
I think mine would just say data nerd or something.
Data-
I don't really have
data,
anything creative.
yeah.
Although my name rhymes with a lot, and when I was a kid, Lancelot's that's actually a layup. I'd
Yeah,
probably have to put
you
that on.
kinda
I
do.
was called that a little bit.
That would be like a lot of letters. It would like curl around the back of the jersey.
It would be Crow-Armstrong, but Lancelot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyways, thanks for joining us here on the Compensate Podcast. As always, we'll see you guys very soon. Go Cubs.